What's happening, guys? Miami here with JST, and today I am here with a very special guest at a very special place.
Kyle Black at West Alley Recordings.
And one thing about Kyle is whether you're more into the hardcore scene, such as Shy Halud and Comeback Kid, or more into the pop punk scene, such as Newfound Glory, State Champs, Boston Manor, Grayscale, I could go on for days, and I'm sure he could tell you a lot more about that. There's one thing that all of these bands have in common, and that's rock music. There is a common denominator when it comes to getting a solid mid-gain to heavy guitar tone in rock, and today we are going to be exploring what it takes to do this on a professional level. And one thing that I want to mention is I could sit in my studio and try to showcase these things, but Kyle does this on a very high level, almost the highest level that you can go when it comes to rock and pop punk and also hardcore stuff. So it only makes sense to get it from the horse's mouth. And his approach is going to be mainly not doing it in the box. He's going to be using real amps, doing different microphone setups and combinations so that you can kind of hear what that does to the signal itself. And you guys can really learn about what goes into making these sounds that are on the records that you've been listening to for years. So without further ado, let's get into this video and break it down the proper way.
Welcome to West Alley Recordings. Here's the live room. I'm gonna show you the two cabs I usually work with and why I'm using them and how to mic them up. This is a Mesa cab, that's a Marshall cab. Inside the Mesa cabinet is vintage 30s. I normally use these for like heavy, creamy, beefy sounds. And then I use the Marshall cab for more clearer, crispier. We're working with a heavier track, so we're gonna go for the heavier sounding cab, and that'll be this one.
So you're choosing to use that Mesa cab instead of using the other cab over here. Do you think that the cabinet actually makes any difference, or like, how do you feel about that?
To me, the actual cabinet doesn't make a difference. The main difference is gonna be the speakers that are inside the cabinet and how you mic those speakers. We're just gonna take the two mics I usually use, which is a 57 and a 421. I'm usually always blending two microphone signals because I can blend the warmth and the brightness to where I think it needs to be, and then we'll treat that signal together. So right now we'll start with a 421 and a 57. I usually always use a 57, but sometimes I'll switch out the 421 for like a ribbon or a FET, something that's just meant to pick up low end well. But for me, the 421 is got just enough, just the right amount of low end. We'll take the 57 and start with putting it at more of the brighter side parts of the speaker, which would be right in the middle, right? So the brightest place is gonna be directly in the middle of the speaker, but I tend to drift it to the side a little bit so it's right where the cone and the middle meet. For the most part, I put both of these microphones at that spot, so we can show you right now what that kind of looks like. I've been doing this so long that I can eyeball it, but to really fine tune it and get it to exactly where we want it, we got to turn off the lights and use a flashlight. And I'll show you how we can do that. So we're gonna start here with the 57 pointed right where the cone of the speaker meets the center of the speaker. And we're gonna start there because when we send some signal through it, if we want this microphone to sound brighter, we're gonna move it more towards the center. If we want it to sound warmer, we're gonna move it more towards the side there. It's really not rocket science. So this is where we're gonna start. And then same here with the 421. So this is right where the center of the speaker and the cone meet is where we're pointing. The type of preamps I use on these microphones are APIs. I like the grit that those preamps bring in the mid-range. The bottom end doesn't get overly saturated as it would like on a Neve. So we usually save the Neve style preamps for something like bass and drums. Cool, so then once we have those mic'd up, we'll plug them in, and then I like to throw this gobo behind them just to, deflect any room sound or sound from the kit. Also, if you have a drum kit nearby, make sure you turn off the chains and mute the kit. Mute anything in the room that might cause vibration. You'd be surprised at how many things start rumbling. Anyways, be on the lookout for that, and grab your gobo and get it nice and close to get a tighter sound. If you're using long distance, it's very important that it's the highest quality you can get. Even if you got to spend a couple $100s on one cable, it's worth it. This particular cable is from a company called Evidence Audio. I also use their instrument cables too, and you really do hear a difference. So you'll get more lows out of the cab, more clarity. So yeah, we've got the two mics. So we've got the 57 and the 421 patched into the API 3124. And I'm gonna blend those two signals with the radial 2-to-1 mixer. You can use any mixer really. I'm just happen to use those units to blend the two analog signals. And the reason why I do that is for two reasons. I don't want to have a bunch of tracks inside Pro Tools with guitar signals. I want them to be summed together so it's simple and easy to work with. So I'll have the DI track and the amp signal. Those will be combined. I can blend the 57, I can blend the 421 to taste, and then I can take that signal and pump that through a compressor. The compressor that I like to use is a Shadow Hills mono optograph. These are really special compressors. They're kind of rare. Good luck finding one, but if you do, get it, because they're great. But you can also use other compressors like an 1176, Little Devil, or a LA3A. It doesn't matter, whatever kind of compressors you like to use. On heavy rhythms, I tend to not compress them too hard because it's already compressed with the distortion, but usually the compression is just adding like a little bit of bite and character at the front end of, like, say, a chug or an entrance onto a downbeat of a rhythm track. And then it obviously levels it out a little bit too. Another benefit of having these two mics summed is you could EQ it. You could throw a nice EQ. You could patch an EQ onto it. Like sometimes having a API before or after a compressor is cool. It's something I tend to do with clean guitars or lead guitars. But for heavy rhythms, I tend to just keep it totally raw. Like the only EQ that we're doing is with mic placement. Like I said earlier during the miking process, if we're having issues with the sound, if it's sounding too muddy in general, obviously we can mess with the EQs on the amp, but we can also mess with the placement of the microphone. So here we can listen to a 50-50 blend of the 421 and the 57, and then we can also listen to each microphone by themselves. So that's them blended. Here's just the 57. Here's just the 421. To me, they both sound exactly how we described them. One's brighter and harsher, and the other one's warmer. They both sound pretty good. Here's them blended together. That had some compression on it, so I'm gonna turn off the Shadow Hills. Sounded very good. Maybe even that sounded better, less compressed. But now we'll put in the compression just a little bit. Cool. Here it is in the track. So we got our mic set up, but a really important part of this process is picking the right amp. I've used a lot of heavy amps before, but my favorite is to use a Bogner Ecstasy. The reason why is it's got a ton of headroom in terms of tone. It's got a ton of EQs, and it's very easy to, you know, trim the tones and fit it into a production. In terms of guitar tone, ease of use is really important. So rather than having 5 to 10 amps, I prefer to just have one very powerful amp that gets the job done. With high gain amps, there's gonna be a lot of noise in between pauses and mutes and whatever. So I like to use a Fortin Zool gate to clean those up, because I can sculpt the tails of chugs, for example, specifically in heavy music. So let me show you guys how I dial in a heavy tone. Cool. Show you guys what a DI sounds like before we reamp it. This DI was recorded with a Undertone Audio GB tracker. That thing makes it super easy to track and reamp. So we're gonna send the DI out of this GB tracker, which is taking a signal from the computer and then converting it from line level to instrument level and then sending it to the amp. And then we're gonna go through that chain that we had just described, starting from the live room into the preamps. All right, so we'll start dialing in this sound. I'll just grab a different section of it and see where we're at with that. So the sound that you're hearing there is a blend of the two mics. I'll go ahead and check out the tone on a different section and dial in that gate, see what we can do with the tone there.
All right, so we're gonna dial in this chug section. So what I'm trying to do is make the tone work for the entire song. So I like to go focus on every section of the song individually and try and get that heavy rhythm section to feel glued and like one sonic section of the song. So we'll start very tight and then loosen it up.
That process literally blew my mind. I want to give a special shout out to all the bands that were involved in the making of this video. The description will have links to each of the songs you heard, and please show some support. Go download those songs, buy those tracks, because they are phenomenal, and I think that they would really appreciate it, because we all know what it's like being a band out here these days. The thing that really struck me was noticing the differences and variances between these mic combinations. If you have nothing and start with something as simple as an SN57, like, you can get there, but it doesn't give you everything that you're hearing on these major records. And now you have something in a source to go to if you want to try this at home yourself. So remember, it's not all about the expensive gear. A lot of it is about the ear. And when it comes to Kyle, it's about the ears. So if you guys really loved this and want to start seeing things more in this format of going out to different studios, working with amazing producers and mixers like Kyle, leave it in the comments below. And if there's anything you want to say, want to give him a special thank you for helping you on your journey, make sure to do that too. If you're an engineer on the come up, give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. You only have to hit it one time, and tap that bell for notifications so when a video drops, you know the location. Until next time, my friends, I'll catch you later.